we need a chat. Come this way. There we go.
By the way, have you subscribed to this channel yet? Because I think you should. It's just like one click for you. But look what I've got to do. I've got to do all this welding, all this digging. Just a thought. Right.
Righty-ho. Okay, and Second Channel people, I think we're getting very familiar with ourselves here, so I thought we'd have a little bit of a chat. Think out loud, get something off my chest, answer a question I've always been asked and I don't completely know the answer to. Oh look, there's a subscriber click thing come up on the screen somewhere. It's a bit late, Editor Colin. Standards are slipping, aren't they, people? Standards are slipping. Okay, so we're going to talk about rust. As you can see, this thing is all made of steel. The tunnel is all made of steel. The bunker is all made of steel. If you're working with steel at some point, you're going to have to deal with rust. Now, basically, at the moment, we have this nice mill scale finish on it, which is the finish I really like. I try not to grind this off too much, affect it when I'm welding it. I try not to do any welds that I have to grind off because I don't want it to go back to being shiny. I just want it to stay like a dull grey like that, because uniformly that looks really good. Now, I've done two different methods in terms of rust protection, or the lack of it. The tunnel is just bare steel with concrete all around it. The bunker was done slightly different. Now the bunker had like a massive sheet of polythene slated over it. I think it might just be the bunker we did that with. I can't remember whether we did the tunnel to the bunker or whether it was only partially done. I don't know, that was 8 years ago. So essentially the bunker is just the bare steel finished, and then over the top of it, it has some polythene which just drapes down the side of it. It's not like glued to it or anything like that. It's not stuck to it. And I remember when we poured the concrete, some of it did get a little bit rucked up. So yes, the majority of it, certainly the roof of the bunker, is going to have polythene over it. But, you know, majority of it is covered, so that's good. Now, 8 years that's been. I haven't had any leaks, and as far as I know, nothing's rusted through or anything, but we don't really know, obviously. I was hoping to do the tunnel in the back garden first, and then we could have broke in, seen what the back of the steel looked like, and then we'd have a bit more of a definitive answer. But anyway, the tunnel is just bare steel because I couldn't put polythene over it, because obviously I'm working in a lot more confines to try and slide polythene over it, get it to stay there. When you pour the concrete in, knowing how much it moves around and stuff when we did the bunker, that wasn't really an option. You can't really stick it on beforehand, obviously, because then when you weld it up, it'll just melt, set fire to it. It's all gone. I've done some research, or I've looked into it a little bit, and exactly what the best thing to do is, and this is where it gets a little bit murky. It's a bit of steel, it's gone rusty. I think this has been outside for about a year. That's got a thin layer of rust on it. Now, apparently, concrete up against rust, the two react and actually cancel each other out. So the alkalinity of the concrete, and I'm guessing the acidity of the rust, sort of cancel each other out, and then they sort of pause then, and it said something about like 1 nanometer or something a year it will rust through. Well, of course, 4mm thick plate steel, that's going to take ages to go through. Now, that's good, but if it is constantly being exposed to water, CO2 or salts, then the whole thing accelerates and you've got a bit of a problem on your hand. Now, I presume that's why bridges and things always need a lot of attention, because obviously they're outside, they've got all the salts they chuck over the road in it, and they've got all the CO2 from all the cars and just the general world. But of course here, I'm underground. So salts maybe, if it all seeps through, because we've got like a foot of concrete, you know, before it gets to the actual room, that's quite some hefty going. So I've got some options. Do I leave this bare steel, let the concrete go up to it, and just hopefully the concrete layer is so thick that it doesn't get wet, doesn't get salts, and doesn't get CO2 up against it, like the tunnel basically is. Now, I'm not worried too much about the tunnel, obviously, because it's under the garage and the patio and the shed, so the water content in the soil is just what seeped in from everywhere else. Because when we were digging it, it was never completely dry at the top, even though we did it in winter and summer. It was pretty consistent, to be fair. So I could just do that, leave it. I could cover it in plastic again, and see, but the problem with that is, you see, if you cover it in plastic and then it does get moist and it does rust, it doesn't have the concrete then up against it to cancel it out. So is that actually worse? So is what I've done with the bunker, is that actually worse than just putting concrete over it? We don't know. Or do I paint it? So, I mean, I could get some paint around the outside and around the back of this room, sort of thing, the best I can. Or do I kind of do like a bit of a mixture where I paint it, but then just put the polythene liner on the outside of the concrete, so up against the soil. So basically it stops the concrete ever getting wet or wet at all. Luckily enough, obviously the limestone, once it gets into the limestone past the clay, it's dry. It doesn't really get that wet anyway. It's like polythene down to there and then just let it be concrete. Just concrete over the whole thing and do the plastic on the soil? Or is there something of a method? I know you can get like sacrificial anodes, you can do it with electricity. Don't know much about that, whether that's an easy thing to implement or not. So that is my question to you. Is there any concrete experts out there that know exactly what's going to happen? You know, is this one of these things where we're basically making a big giant metal mould for a concrete room, and in like 40, 50 years time, the whole thing will look like the Titanic and be a complete mess? I don't know. This is an interesting question. You know, I see it so many times. Is it going to rust? The rooms themselves have not gone rusty. The bunker is 8 years old and has no surface rust on most of the steel. There we go. That is my question, people. What are we going to do? I've actually had a really good idea. I know what we can do. I know how we can sort of solve some of this. Right. Okay, so I'm in the entrance to the underground bunker. If you're completely new here and don't know what the bunker is an absolutely brilliant room at the bottom of my garden, which after I finish the secret underground garage, the tunnel of which you get to the garage and get to the house will extend down the garden and come so you can get into the bunker. And it is going to intersect right here. So I was thinking, if this is going to become a doorway and all get chopped out, it's not going to matter now if I drill a hole in it and have a look at the bit of metal, bit of plate, see what condition the steel's in on the outside. I'll know if I put a bit of polythene on, because I'll see that as well, or whether it's just bare concrete, and then that will tell us a little bit of what we can do at the front. Oh, why didn't I think about this before? Right, got a hole saw. I'm going to do it here. Here we go. It's kind of weird. I'm kind of nervous about doing this, even though it doesn't matter. Right. Well, it's still 4mm thick. That's a good sign. Right, let's swap out to the hole saw. Oh yes. Put you on hyper speed. Oh, this drill's starting to smell. Ah, that's killed the drill. No, it hasn't. Moment of truth. Well, it looks good to me. Yes, there is a bit of plastic, look. There is a bit of oh my God. Right, let me get this zoomed in. It's barely touched it. There we are, bit of polythene, tiny bit of rust. This has been here for 8 years. I mean, let me know if I'm forgetting something, but I think I'll sort of repeat that method. That's not even wet. So to be extra scientific, I thought I need to drill a hole somewhere where there isn't any polythene coverage. And I had a feeling this didn't get covered that well, this part of it. So I've drilled a hole down the bottom here. It is in even better condition. Okay, as you can imagine, I'm very pleased with that. It has always been a worry of mine that at some point the bunker would rot through and it would just become a big mess and a bit like a car restoration, which, by the way, my E30 over on Yorkshire Car Restoration is completely, they've not shelled it, but it ain't got no windows in it, it ain't got no engine in it. Go and check that out. I think they've got another video out today on the progress of that. It's got a few more holes in it than what I expected. But anyway, rust, it looks like having no polythene is better than polythene, but polythene, even, I mean, that's not bad, is it? So now, if you've got anything to add to this conversation, if I'm missing anything, if you want to kind of fill people in on the exact reasons of this, get in the comments. It's because of your questions, the reason why this video, basically. So I like seeing it, I like hearing it, it is all good. Subscribe, don't forget your milk and tea mugs, these aren't available for much longer. I thought it was kind of obvious where this font had come from, but Rick come in the other day and was like, oh, it's the so-and-so font. I was like, oh yeah? But anyway, that's just how it is, isn't it? Right, subscribe to both channels. There's a main video next week on the main channel. Fingers crossed if I get it all finished and done. Boom! 800,000 of you now nearly, aren't they? I didn't think there'd be that much tunnel loving in the world. Clearly people just love tunnels and garages. Right, go Colin, go.